want to say welcome and really hello. I think it's something that we just don't get to say enough in the business world because we want to make sure that all of our clients and the folks that are thinking about Telmar understand that Telmar is really about helping our agencies and our brands and our clients plan with more efficiency and greater speed. And I know it's very easy to fill our calendars with webinars, as was just mentioning, because we're always on a constant search for new knowledge. And this is to help us stay ahead of our competitors, but sometimes even our own peers. And because in marketing, I feel like knowledge is an everlasting pursuit, and oftentimes it's an endurance race. And because of that endurance, that is the spirit of Telmar and today's topic around radio planning, to compress and make planning easy to digest, just like this webinar will be. In fact, it's going to be a very short webinar. We're not going to spend an hour today. And this is the whole mission of Telmar, is to compress and make it easier for you to find your audiences and to plan your media campaigns. Telmar was founded on the principles of data neutrality, which allows us to provide you with a holistic view of your markets without the hindrance of proprietary data that restricts you to the use of that individual platform. And when we can relieve you of those traditional burdens, of the individual data streams, of the individual tools, we can provide you with improved efficiency. And when I say improved, I would actually say the greatest efficiency in your intel and help you plan closer to what actual market activity is rather than kind of mixing and matching your guesstimates across the board. I've been in the media industry selling into it for about 10 years, and everyone I talk to just talks about how they have to pull things constantly from the gut because you're picking from here, you're picking from there, you're picking from all over. So for today's discussion, we're going to introduce to you how Telmar is now powered with Eastlan ratings. And this is going to help give you a comprehensive view into local radio planning. This is a view that now provides all radio stations in given markets and will give you visibility to the markets that receive less love from the traditional media monitors. So you're going to be able to plan your radio with greater accuracy and greater return on your ad spend. This meeting will also, as I mentioned, be recorded, so anyone can go back to it. And we'll also be looking at the comments. I'll be doing that while my colleagues are speaking. So please feel free to pepper questions throughout. If we can address them in the meantime, we'll do that. If we wait till the end, we can do it then. But we do like to see some interactivity too. So feel free to shout out whenever you'd like. Without further ado though, I'd like to introduce the president and CEO of Eastlan Ratings, Mike Gold.
Thanks, Michael. And thanks everybody else for the time this morning. Just as a brief introduction, sort of who Eastlan is and what the benefit is to you participating in this today. Who we are is a radio ratings company that's provided service in the United States since 1999. If you haven't heard of us, that's not a real surprise. Our mission has all along been to provide an alternative. Arbitron, or now Nielsen, is, was, and remains, and will into the future remain the currency for measurement in radio. So I really want to establish that as a baseline so we all understand here, this is not an either or situation. Nielsen is the currency. What Eastlan does is augment that. And we've seen over our 22, almost 23 years that niche has grown. What are some of those markets, or how did it come to us? They're markets that are no longer measured by Nielsen for one reason or another. Perhaps Nielsen discontinued the service, or broadcasters made a different choice. Or there are another significant set of markets where there are both ratings companies are there. Markets that are no longer rated by Nielsen but are only measured by Eastlan include places like Santa Rosa, California, Bend, Oregon, LaSalle, Peru, Illinois, Billings, Montana, Yuma, Arizona, a long list of places that were formerly measured but are no longer measured by Nielsen. Places like Santa Rosa really matter. That's a market, obviously, you all know that market near San Francisco with 500,000 people. It didn't just go away. It's still there, but unfortunately, without Eastlan, it becomes more difficult to understand completely. and make the best investments for your brands. Markets, some of the markets that we share are markets like Johnson City, Tennessee, and Charleston, West Virginia, Syracuse, New York, Redding, California, Chico, California, Fort Wayne, Indiana, South Bend, Indiana, Laurel, Mississippi. So why do we share them? What's different about the two? Why should you take the time to look at two sources before you buy Syracuse, New York, or Johnson City, Tennessee? The most significant difference is that we list all radio stations regardless of whether they're a subscriber or not. So commercial stations, non-commercial stations, all stations. And in some markets that can make a significant difference. In a market like Fort Wayne, the top 3, sometimes the top 4 radio stations, sometimes even the top 5 radio stations are ones who are not subscribers to Nielsen. So as you look at that market, if you look at just the Nielsen data, and it's not a market you're familiar with because you're buying it once a year, or you're buying it every other year, or you're buying it for a political campaign, it's the first time you've been there, you would miss the fact that the data that's available from Nielsen doesn't include, in this particular case, the top 4 or 5 stations. So that's the real difference here. Our purpose is to make radio easy to buy. And we want you to have the best understanding you can to plan and buy radio efficiently. And Michael, that's really the whole story. So we're not new in this game. There's a significant number of markets in any given year. There's between 60 and 100. Some are shared with some are shared with Nielsen, some are not. We're not a replacement. We're not recommending. Don't, please, if you get nothing else from this today, don't hear me say replace Nielsen. Do not do that. Continue to do what you do for your brands. Look at Nielsen. It is currency. However, this can be an additional tool, or in some places, as the ecosystem has evolved, it becomes the only tool. There was an era where we could buy radio with a single source vendor. There was a time when we could buy television in the US with a single source vendor, but many of you now probably have needed to incorporate ComScore into your planning strategies. We feel like we play a similar role to ComScore in that it's a tool that's just become significant enough that it's in your best interest probably to give it some consideration. And different than the ComScore Nielsen television scenario, the radio one, the Eastlan case, can be made quite strong in that the markets we measure, again, you see all stations, and that can make a significant difference. Michael, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't think everybody cares about my second child's middle name and how many dogs we have and where we live and all of our crazy, methodological math and science sorts of things. I think the last comment I'd make is, as you're seeing right now on the screen, there is no learning curve. There's no new metrics. You're going to see average quarter-hour rating and be able to calculate reach and frequency. There's no reinvention of the wheel here. And that's why the data works in the system that's on your desk, whether it's Telmar or Freewheel or fill in the blank in terms of software companies that help to make your job easier.
I think that's a real interesting point that you highlight, Mike, too. And that's the confidence that we partner with certain providers because of that confidence, which is don't give up what you're doing. What Eastlan's able to do is provide more value in what you're doing. It's able to provide more information, more detail, and essentially better return on their ad spend when you're making those plans. Mike, thank you so much for that introduction to the service.
You're welcome.
I'd like to pass that over to Ray, my colleague in the US here, to kind of walk us through a little bit about how Telmar Audio would actually work.
Yes, thank you, both Michaels, Mike and Michael. Mike, we're so excited to be on the webinar with you today. We're very excited about working with Eastlan Data because, as you said, at the end of the day, it's about enabling our clients to do more of what they want to do, better and faster. Before we talk in detail about Telmar Audio and our partnership with Eastlan, just wanted to take a minute to set the context around this specific conversation and just kind of help folks place Telmar Audio within kind of the broader suite of Telmar offerings. if that's okay. So, Telmar, for folks on the line who may not be as familiar with us, we are a full bore communications planning solution. And it all starts with better understanding your audience, your target audience. Who are they? Where do they live? What do they do? Why? Our Insights and Statistics solution is a flagship product within our suite, which enables users to really spend less time with their data and more time with the meaning from that data, actionable insights, and actually spend more time making better business decisions off of those insights. So the embedded visualizations and statistics allow users to find the meaningful patterns within either a syndicated database or a custom proprietary database. And really that is, Michael touched on it before, we've been working with data for over 50 years. We are data neutral. We are agnostic. We have no preferences. Our North Star is what our clients are using. And we make sure to be able to work with that. Once our clients have a good understanding of the audience, then it becomes about media planning. What is the best reach building schedule, either within a given medium or across media? And that's another key part of the Telmar portfolio, is being able to plan a given media. And that is where Telmar Audio would fall. Just to cover off on it, I mentioned 50 plus years of working with data. We have experts, we have a data team that has the experience to do other things to make our clients' data subscriptions and our data investments, their data investments, sing, to really enhance the ROI of those investments. So everything from, loading custom data sets into our platform and environment to leverage, harness all of these capabilities onto that data, but also things like modeling, fusing, transferring segments, whatever is needed. So again, just wanted to contextualize today's conversation. Enough of that. So what are we actually talking about today? There's three key pieces, and Mike eloquently spoke to the data, and I'm just going to cover off another couple of points on that. But really, my job is to take you on a tour of some highlights of the user interface, what users would actually be using to interface with the Eastlan data. And then how to work with that data. I love how Mike said, we're not talking about replacing. That is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about two competing versions of truth. We're talking about two pieces of the whole. And so the last thing that I'm going to talk about is how we stitch those together. And really, bottom line, it's about enabling users to be working with the fuller picture of what's happening with local radio listening. Cool. Anything to add, guys?
No, this is great. And I liked what you said there, Ray. I'm going to say it again at the end of this, two pieces of the whole.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. But I can't take credit for it. That's what Mike said. So the first piece is the highlights tour. So Telmar Audio is our local radio planning solution. It has been designed from the ground up to be user-friendly, which means two main things. The first is an intuitive, streamlined user flow. Honestly, in order to build a schedule, a user really only has to input a handful of things: what stations, what markets, what audience, and then what weight levels. And then that's pretty much it. But throughout that whole user flow, we have designed user-friendly functionality, little capabilities that in and of themselves, each one is a small thing, but cumulatively, they add up to a more streamlined, easier, less stress experience for identifying the right schedule to use for local radio. The data piece of this. So again, we're not talking about replacing, we're talking about complementing. And that is just part of our DNA. We are Data Switzerland. And so what we're talking about is the same interface, being able to work with other data sets and Eastlan, all using the same terminology and the same interface. Again, just to make things easier. And a user won't have to just work with numbers. There are also visualizations to help you quickly understand what a schedule can be expected to perform like in terms of overall reach, but also reach by station, by target audience. And at the end of the day, you have two pieces of the whole. How do you stitch them together? How do you create a holistic full picture view? And so we have an example of that I'm going to share with you in just a little bit. But in terms of Telmar Audio, the tool, so one key piece is what audience do I want to evaluate? It is very easy for users to define. And again, in and of itself, it's a small modification, small improvement, but over time, it can accumulate into big impact. So you don't have to enter numbers. You use either a sliding scale or radio buttons to define your target. Once you have built a target that persists in a persistent library, you don't have to build it again. And small little things like once you build a target, the tool knows you're going to want to use that target. So you don't have to select it. It'll just be selected for you as you proceed to the next step. And then you do have visualizations to show you, how your different target audiences are stacking up against each other. In terms of filtering, if you have a handful of day parts that you always plan, you can populate that into your window, and then you will only be using that as a user. If you quickly want to identify the stations within with a certain network affiliation or a certain genre, it's very easy to filter for just that, and then you're only working with that. And again, it's a small time-saving measure that can add up to big benefits over time. And then optimization, not an end-all be-all, but it can be helpful as a line in the sand, just to understand if I needed the most efficient reach building schedule, what would that look like? So that is a feature in Telmar Audio as well. And an example could be, in Johnson City. And these are actually two examples of another feature within Telmar Audio, which is the dashboard view. So a very high level look at just the key metrics for a given schedule. So you're looking at two different schedules here. The first one is an unoptimized, just a random collection of spots, 152, that achieves a 70 reach about at a 3 frequency and corresponding costs. And again, user-friendly, it's very easier to work with costs. As long as you have them, you can input them into the system, and you can see what a given schedule will look like from a cost perspective. With the optimization feature, you can identify a schedule that would also achieve a 70 reach at a 3 frequency, but more efficiently. Not an end-all be-all, but potentially useful as a data point for identifying the right schedule for you. Another benefit in terms of planning is around multi-markets. So local buyers and planners oftentimes have to look at multiple geographies. This specific example, and I hope it's able to come through, is the ability to, these are targets that I have built in my target library. These are multiple Eastlan markets. I can quickly sort and identify and profile each market based on my target audiences. It's not directly tied to building a schedule, but it helps you very quickly identify what a starting point might be. Michael, I'm cognizant that I'm talking a lot. Are there any questions or anything?
I think everyone's ingesting what you're saying, Ray. Appreciate the cadence that you're giving us right now. This is good information.
Sounds good. So finally, like, what does this look like? What are we talking about? So here is an example of kind of the end result reporting. Schedules have been built in each of these markets. What we're looking at, and again, these are Eastlan markets, I believe. And these are all over the place, mostly on the West Coast, but we're looking at about 6 markets. The top line shows combined in aggregate what this group of markets is delivering in terms of number of spots, reach, and frequency. You can also look and see each individual market and what that's contributing to the overall. And you can also see visualizations, again, to kind of get a sense, top line, of how each market is performing in terms of reach delivery. In this case, These visualizations are reflecting Fort Wayne, which is the first market here. So it's achieving about a 60% reach. Here's a frequency distribution. You can see this either as a visualization or as a table. And then this is station reach delivery by target audience. And then just a comp of the audience for the market. And just to bring back bring home the point about this is a fuller picture. So again, we're staying with Johnson City because that is a market that is common to the available radio listening data sets. And before Eastlan, the top 5 stations in this market would achieve about a 51% 1+ reach. What we're talking about isn't replacing, but with Eastlan and the top 5 stations available in that data stream, you're talking about potentially an additional 22% reach, which when you mix them together using a utility available on the Telmar platform, overall, you're talking about a 62% reach, which is available and possible now with the addition of Eastlan ratings. So we're very excited about this. We think that this can be powerful. And there could be a cost efficiency aspect to this story as well. Some of the stations that are now visible with a line of sight, their associated CPMs may be lower. So those are, again, that was kind of the highlights in terms of the interface, the benefits in terms of ease of use, and then the benefits of now being able to work with an additional local radio ratings stream.
That was wonderful, Ray. Thank you for walking us through some of that. And thank you for helping us understand a little bit more about how Telmar and Eastlan ratings is going to be able to give our clients a more holistic view of the market. I use the word holistic, you can use the word full and complete, whatever it may be. It's all about making sure that you have access to the best available data to make the best available decisions when you're planning. And we know that advertising world has never been in a more stressful period of making quick decisions, of making the best value decisions than we are today. And really, that's, again, what the foundation of Telmar is to help you reach those decisions quickly and efficiently. I want to say thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ray, for taking the time to walk us through these benefits. Ray uses a great term of power-up, superpowers. I like to think of Eastlan as one of the superpowers now in your radio planning abilities. And what I find interesting is I was speaking with one of our holding companies the other day who we gave pre-launch access to on this, and the feedback was overwhelmingly enthusiastic. I'm going to read this quote, so my eyes are going to be averted for a second, but previous to having this added visibility, we limited our radio buys to the major markets we knew from memory or from our guts. Now, we can find ways to squeeze more reach by targeting smaller and cheaper, was the underlined word there, markets using your Telmar science. And I like that term, Telmar science. As I mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, Telmar is hyper-focused on reducing the burden of using data to plan your media. And this audio tool is just one of the many resources we have that we provide our clients, including video, out of home. One of our blockbuster tools that Ray and I talk almost 3 to 4 times a day about with clients is our cross-media reach and frequency tools. So this is the ability to pull in any other media calculations that you have and then create one number from this. And again, this highlights the point that we don't care which data you use. We just want to give you the ability to use as much data as you choose. And so all of these tools, say even a video, are built to ingest multiple data sources. If you'd like to learn more, we're happy to chat for 2 minutes. We're happy to chat for 30 minutes. Really, our time is not just your time, but our time is in saving you time. If you have any questions, Ashley is our go-to contact on here. She'll help schedule you around. If you have questions on Eastlan, and again, Mike is one of the very favorite people that I've ever spoken to. Thank you, Mike. Hopefully that he'll be open to sharing any feedback or insights that you may have or need about Eastlan as well. But to that point, I want to say thank you everyone for joining us during your lunch breaks and your morning breaks. And we hope to talk with you guys soon.